there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be the Books and Life tag. I wasn't tagged in this, but I had just filmed a bunch of other tags outdoors. I mentioned this in another video, but the sound in the videos that I filmed outside, it was terrible, unsalvageable. So I'm gonna do this tag because one, it is easy, and two, I just watched Roxanne from the novel Sanctuary film it. She tagged everybody, so I'm watching it, and I'm taking that as me being tagged. And the original tag was created by Steve Donahue. I will link to both of those videos below. Question number 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a normal person and 10 being the late Harold Bloom, how much are books and reading part of your life? Harold Bloom is quite the standard. I'm gonna say maybe 4. Maybe, because first of all, I don't work in any kind of book-related industry. I'm not in publishing, I'm not a librarian, I'm not a book reviewer, I'm not any of those things. So I think that by default makes you a 5. And I did previously, in the past, I've volunteered at a library, and in the past I've been part of book clubs, but these days none of those things are true. Now, a disproportionate amount of my socializing these days, just because we're still in lockdown here, has been doing buddy reads and things online, so I think that bumps it up a little, but I'm gonna say 4 because, yeah, it's not my profession, and it is for a lot of people, so it's amazing how many professors and teachers of either literature or languages there are on BookTube. It's funny. Question number 2 is, where does your personal library stand right now in relation to the rest of your life? Do you have more books now than ever, or fewer? How has your library changed? If you've ever dug through the videos on my channel, going back 4 or 5 years, you'll see I've moved a few times. When I first moved to the US, I put about 1,000 books in storage. I had thinned out some, and I took, I don't know, a few hundred with me. And while I lived there, I acquired a few hundred books, but before I left, I sold or donated probably half of that. Now, those books didn't come back to where I am now. They went to Calgary because I was planning to move, so they're in a storage unit there. So if you add up the original storage unit plus that one, that's about 1,500 books plus. Now, I mean, not all of these are mine. Some of the stuff on the bottom are books that belong to my mother, but from here up, these are my books. So yeah, I probably have more books now than ever, and just because I put stuff in storage twice, and I think I would have thinned those out. Like, I do regularly go through these, and if I've read something or I decide I'm not going to read something, I get rid of it. But at the same time, I've bought more books over the past year and a half that we've been in lockdown, in part because sometimes there'll be a book at the library that's not circulating. So under normal circumstances, I would have just picked a Saturday and gone and read the book at the reference library, but I can't do that because it's been closed for the past year and a half. So I have bought books that I wouldn't have otherwise bought, and I haven't thinned things out. I've donated a couple of boxes of books, but I haven't done nearly as much thinning out. So I do probably have more books now. And especially because that original storage unit I should have cleared out before we put it in storage, because I'm sure I could get rid of about half of those books. Question number 3 is, take a mental step back and ask yourself, what is the most likely first bookish impression a newcomer would have in your home? Walking into this house, you don't actually see books because most of the books are either upstairs or downstairs. They're not on the main level. I do keep my stack of library books, and I tend to take about 15 books out every 2 weeks, which means right now there are probably about 30 library books in my front hall and my 2 piles of to be read and to be returned. So they probably would say, I've had so many people say to me that they didn't know the libraries were open, because I mentioned that the reference library is closed, but it's closed to sit there and read. They are open, you can pick things up and put things on hold. Question number 4 is, how often do you clean or reorganize your books? Whenever I vacuum the shelves. Looking at the dust now, I probably need to vacuum these shelves right now. And I reorganize whenever I do the clear out that I should be doing, when I buy new things. When I buy a new bookshelf, because that happens sometimes too. Question number 5 is, on average, how many books do you acquire in a given week? Well, as I said, I probably take 7 or 8 books out of the library every week, and of those, if I enjoy them, I may buy 1 or 2. And as I said, I've bought a lot more books over the past year and a half than I normally would have. So, I don't know, it might average out to a couple of books a week. Question number 6 is, what song is your current earworm? And I don't have a current earworm. However, I don't know why, but recently on social media I've seen a number of references to the Roman Britain, some of which have been jokes, some of which have been people being ignorant about history, but every time I see someone talk about Roman Britain, I think of the line, oh, I don't remember what the song's called, but it's the first track on The Streets' original Pirate Material, and the line is something like, I'm 45th generation Roman and don't know him, and go from there. And that is what I think of every time. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of my humor. I'll link to that song below, in case you don't know it. Pun unintended. Question number 7 is, what percentage of your self-control do you retain in a well-stocked bookshop? I have pretty reasonable self-control because I usually buy books after I've taken them out of the library first. They're on my mind. I do have some used bookshops that I know are particularly good that I'll have a list in mind, but even then I think it's under control if you have a list of what you're looking for. Now I will say, when I was leaving Houston and I was getting rid of books, I would take a bunch of half-price books to sell, and I'd go look at the secondhand books there. And especially the clearance section was always fantastic because the particular location that I went to definitely had a lot of expats in the neighborhood because it had a much higher percentage of books that were in languages other than just English and Spanish, because in a lot of Houston bookstores it's all English and Spanish. But there they had a lot of French and German and whatnot. But those books would rotate into the clearance section much more quickly, so I would buy stacks of books there, which are now all in my Calgary storage unit. But I always felt like, since I was getting rid of books, that was okay, because there was balance in the force. You know? Question number 8 is, do you ever feel the need to take a break from books? If yes, what form does it take? I don't think I ever really take a break from books, because so much of my reading has been multitasking. I would say that outside of this past year and a half, because I'm not commuting anywhere and our gyms literally just reopened here last week, and most of my reading has been at those places. The years when I haven't read as much as I normally do have been because I didn't have a commute. And I mean, this year has been weird because I'm not doing anything else, so I'm still reading at home. But normally, when I lived in Calgary, for example, I had a very short train or bus ride in the morning to get to work, and then I walked home from work, so I wasn't reading on that commute. And because of the climate there, you can spend a lot more time outside, so on weekends I wouldn't be at the gym, I'd be hiking up Sulphur Mountain or something, and so I wasn't reading as much. But, you know, it wasn't because I was taking a break from books, it was because I wasn't on a train for long enough to read more books. Question number 9 is, when you meet a new person, how long does it take to bring up books? The main place that I meet new people nowadays is waiting for my car to be serviced, and I usually have a book with me, which means that if there's a chatty person in the waiting area, they ask me what the book is. Or I had a book with me, I went to the very elaborate vaccination process that we had here, where you wait in one line and they let you into another one and then another one. And I had a book with me, and I had a couple of people ask me what I was reading, so all the time. In the odd circumstances when it's somewhere where I'm not carrying a book. And I guess that used to be the dog park. My dog has since passed away, but I think even then, people will have conversations about current events, and if somebody's saying, I read this online, and somebody else says that I read this in the newspaper, and I heard this from my friend, and if I've read a book about the history of it, I'll say, oh yeah, I read a book about the source of said issue. So I do talk about books in that sense, but I'm not talking about books to, hey, do you want to talk about a book? It's because we're talking about this event in some country, and it's all connected, and we're just pulling our information from different places, and mine is slightly more likely to be a book. So yeah, it comes up a lot. I've seen a lot of people say that it doesn't, but for me, it comes up quite a bit. Question number 10 is, have you given any thought or taken any provision or made any provisions for your personal library after you croak? No, I figure whoever my next of kin is will sell what they can and donate the rest. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I think my sister would take some of this, and some of it she would read, and some of it she would sell. I mean, I would like to think that I have a bunch of books, like all these old Asterix books were my father's, and a couple of these Tintin books, so I kind of like the idea that maybe my nephew would take them, but, you know, if he doesn't care. But, yeah, I assume it's getting donated, and whoever inherits it can worry about that. Question number 11 is, are you known among your friends and loved ones for your weird and probably unhealthy relationship with books? I don't know how unusual this is, but a lot of my friends and relatives also read, and the only thing I'm known for is that I read faster than a lot of people. That is something a lot of people comment on, like if they see me turn a page. I've multiple times had people take a book from me and say, you didn't read that quickly, and then quiz me on things. But yeah, most of my friends, like, we don't necessarily read the same things, but I have a lot of friends who read either a lot of science fiction, or who read a lot of mysteries, or who read a lot of self-help business books and stuff. Yeah, so I'm not actually that odd in context. I think that's the last question. I feel like everybody and their brother has done this tag, so I don't know who to tag, but if you, like me, are looking for something to replace a bunch of content that you accidentally destroyed, please do this tag. Consider yourself tagged. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.